the UK is in really, really, really bad shape. It's in really bad shape, and there's no signs it's going to get any better. In this video, I'm speaking to a parliamentary candidate from one of the parties that's proposing to make things better in the UK for all, and they're standing in Boris Johnson's constituency since his resignation.
Businesses need a platform that allows people to access and manage their office workstation from anywhere and anytime. WebConnect does just that. Our browser-based desktop platform enables you to seamlessly migrate your office into a private cloud, giving you total control of your desktop, files, and important data. It's encrypted end-to-end connection, making it totally secure and ensuring peace of mind for users and administrators alike. Put WebConnect to the test and transform the way you work remotely.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, and this video is not about crypto. This video is about politics because I cover politics and I cover health issues and I cover climate change issues and I do cover crypto, but not in this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking to the Deputy Leader of UKIP, the United Kingdom Independence Party. It's Rebecca Jane. She is running as the parliamentary candidate for Boris Johnson's former constituency, Uxbridge and Hillingdon. Now, before I introduce her, please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT. Join my official Telegram announcements channel. And also you've got to follow me on Odyssey. bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, a censorship-resistant platform. I post material there that YouTube doesn't like because YouTube's a little bit sensitive about certain subjects. It's email sign up and you get to earn crypto for watching videos on Odyssey. Okay, Rebecca. Thank you so much for making yourself available. You are the Deputy Leader of UKIP. And I think before we started recording, I said to you, I think this is a little bit, I'm on the edge for myself here, right? Given my very left-wing political background, member of the anti-apartheid movement, what are my family and my left-wing friends going to say and stuff? But the thing that I said to you before, I'm going to say it now, right, is one is, I think dialogue is important. And also, maybe UKIP has been misrepresented by the mainstream media. Nigel Farage was presented as a racist, and I don't think he is, right? But also, left and right doesn't apply anymore because of the world that we're in. That is for liberty or for authoritarianism. Well, I think I'll go for the liberty one. So double thanks for making yourself available for this. Do you want to start by just saying a little bit about your political journey, and then we can go into what UKIP stands for and what you're proposing in the constituency, and feel free to make comment on what I've just said as well.
Yeah, of course, completely agree. Thank you for having me, first of all. So my CV these days says I'm a politician. I don't think that I am at all. So I entered the political landscape in October 2022 when I became Deputy Leader of UKIP, also known as the UK Independence Party. I did that because I was so dismayed by politics. I was absolutely sick to death of the corruption and the lies and the lack of transparency that is all that we seem to get these days. And I am a firm believer in that. I've been on GB News since it began. I've worked for ITV for about 10 years or so, and I constantly, week in, week out, would sit there and rant about political, problems and things I didn't like. And it's not really within my nature to sit back and not do anything. And so rather than just keep on ranting, it was like, right, well, how do I actually go about changing stuff? Well, okay, I'll become the Deputy Leader of UKIP, like you do. Standard behaviour. But if there's one thing about UKIP, and I joined the party, gosh, it's probably about 3 years ago actually now, but I did it quite silently. I didn't want to pledge an allegiance to any kind of party because you are tarnished. If you stick that flag out and you say, I am this, people go, oh. And until I got to that point last year where I was like, I've had enough and I've got to do something, I kind of kept very silently in the background and supported what they did and saw what they did and saw what they talked about. And everything that they have said and their manifestos and their policies is exactly who I am. And so it was just a case of, do you know what? I am the random person. I genuinely believe I understand real people's problems. All the businesses that I have owned throughout my whole life have all been revolved around people and helping them and caring about them. So it was like, do you know what? Let's go next level. And hey ho, here I am, a parliamentary candidate for Uxbridge and South Ruislip, for crying out loud.
Right. So did you say Uxbridge, Hillingdon and
Uxbridge and South Ruislip, yeah.
Is that what it's called? Oh, okay. So I got it wrong. So it's Uxbridge and South Ruislip. Now, this is the constituency. This by-election, what date is it? The 24th of July?
20th of July, yeah.
20th of July. Okay, this by-election is on the 20th of July, and it's caused by Boris Johnson's sudden and surprising resignation.
Shock.
Yeah, and the Privileges Committee condemned him for breaking lockdown rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for the killing of people in Ukraine, not for the mass corruption within the Tory party, not for tearing apart the peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine that Erdogan negotiated in April last year. Not for that, no, but for having a few drinks.
And a piece of cake.
Oh, and cake. Yeah, well, he should stay off the cake. All right. So now, one of the things I notice is that by-election has attracted a lot of attention. There's the Conservatives, Labour, Lib Democrats, Green, Reform, Reclaim.
Well, not quite.
No?
So Reform and Reclaim have come to a pact, but Reform have also come to a pact with the SDP, and the SDP are also standing. So it's a lot of absolute nonsense, if you ask me. But Reform are not standing a candidate. Lawrence Fox is kind of allowing it.
Okay, so Reclaim are, and also I can't remember if the Heritage Party and AFD.
No.
Minds of Freeman. Okay. By the way, they've both been on my channel, David Curtin and Dr.
Tech.
Dr. Tech. That's right. Right. They've both been on my channel talking about them, right? And there may be a few other independent candidates as well.
There's a few.
Quite a few, right? So one is the I suppose the anti-established party bloc is going to be split. Why on earth should anybody vote for UKIP as opposed to some of the others?
Well, the biggest thing that obviously we've kind of slightly come under a bit of fire for is the fact that Reclaim and ourselves are standing. Because, the first job that I wanted to do when I took the position on was to try and create this alliance of, splinter right, centre right, whatever you want to call them, parties who are on all that kind of side of things. And, I entered talks very quickly with Reclaim. And we tried to enter talks with Reform, but it fell on deaf ears. It was an absolute waste of time. Richard Tice was not even remotely interested. And then when he came out with some of the things that he said about vaccines and about, the body autonomy situation, I was just like, I can't, in safe conscience and good hands, give our people to this man, because I don't agree with all the things that he was saying. And his attack of Andrew Bridgen, didn't like that. Which now Andrew Bridgen is part of Reclaim, and all of a sudden they've done this pact to not stand against each other in the by-election. And they did a pact with the SDP that they wouldn't stand against them, but yet now it's superseded by one with Reclaim. It's all a load of nonsense. I'll say that. Nobody's working truly together, and that was my first thing. It was a case of banging a lot of heads together and saying, listen, what on earth are we doing? We are going to split votes. There's going to come time for a general election. If we don't sort our acts out now, what are we going to do? We're going to waste it. Why are you even existing if you don't want to unite with all of us? And we came up with a really good plan, actually. I was really proud of it. It's still there in the background. We got it approved by the Electoral Commission. We took it to various parties, and provisionally, all bar Reform said that either yes, we're in, or we will talk about it. And what then transpired was I was fed a lot of lies by one party. And it started to become quite apparent, actually, over the course of time and over the course of the last few months, that we were being fed absolute nonsense. And I don't stand for that. And it's a case that I kept on saying, if you're not interested, tell us, and we'll just all move on, and we'll go and do it in a different way. That lack of transparency and real unprofessionalism, I couldn't handle. So and we were blindsided. We were completely and utterly blindsided, because these parties knew I was going to stand in this by-election. And again, we were fed lies, and we were fed a lot of nonsense. And the reason being was because they were planning to sidewind it and basically come out and say, we're going to stand too. And it was like, well, where's the unity in that?
Okay.
You've absolutely lied to me.
Yes, and I can understand how like, I suppose as an outsider, how different parties would be like, okay, look, no, we want to win. No, we want this one. No, we think we've got the best strategy, right? It's kind of natural, right? But nevertheless, you've got your standing, and there are other parties. And I'm going to come back to the question I asked you, like, why should everybody vote for you? But before I do that, there's something you said about the injections. They're not vaccines, the injections and bodily autonomy. Don't you think the state has a right to enforce and mandate medical interventions on people?
Absolutely not.
Oh my God, you're one of these people that believe in bodily autonomy and people having a right to their own bodies and medical treatment. Oh my God, they're so dangerous, right? Okay, and what about, doesn't the state have the right, by the way, these are loaded questions and I hope you can at least establish my own point of view about these matters, right? Shouldn't the state have the right to prevent family members from meeting each other?
No. Honestly, what we have all been through. I work in private mental health care. I own a private mental health care company. I've delivered contracts for the NHS, and I was saying it all the way through COVID. We worked all the way through COVID, and I kept on saying, we're going to take 10 years to recover from what you're doing to people. You're putting people through absolute mass trauma, and now, lo and behold, they all sit there and there's a woman last week crying her eyes out saying, oh, we've damaged children with what we've done through COVID. No shit. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's absolutely disgusting that they now sit there and act like they weren't being told the truth when it was happening. We were there. We were saying, this is going to take us 10 years. You can't traumatize a whole entire nation. Who's to say what you're constantly harping on and telling us is right? Why do you not let people have freedom of their own mind and decide what is best for them? Because I'm sorry, but I can decide. And do you know what? I did a column about it, actually. Because I write for a few papers, and the Burnley Express is one that I wrote for a good few years. And I wrote a column on it about, don't tell me what to do with my body, because I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any stretch of the imagination. I don't mind saying, my children have had their vaccinations. I even had the COVID vaccine. And now I kind of wish that I kind of hadn't. But what I will absolutely say about it is that should have been my right to choose. I shouldn't have been fed this narrative. I shouldn't have been judged and made to feel bad if I was putting up a different side of the argument. I had the vaccine, for crying out loud, but yet I was still shouting and ranting about let people decide for themselves. Yep. Stop feeding this. Yep. So, no, and don't talk to me about lockdowns because I'll just go off.
The first 6 weeks, right, I fell for it. I was so scared. I
wasn't scared.
No, well, it was because out of fear that I fell for it, and I was masking up and everything and observing social distancing. Then at some point I started thinking, why am I just buying what governments and corporates are saying without questioning? And then I started digging into it, and then it's like, okay, this is nonsense. I'm not doing this. And one of the things that I was very aware of as a child protection social worker, because it's more than 10 years, child abuse has gone through the roof, domestic abuse has gone through the roof, and that's a generational problem.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I know that I wasn't scared at the time, and now I knew it was all about control then. I knew it was about, they just want us to do what they say, and what bigger way to enforce mass scare tactics than to do what they did. Yeah. And then when you look at the little side, like the little parts of all of this, like, the Snapchat, remember I hated those Snapchat filters before the mask situation happened, where you had the Snapchat filters that had these masks on. And I used to think that's awful. And now I look at it and it was subliminally, I think we were being conditioned. And I think that it was a big conditioning program. And I'm genuinely scared that it will happen again. And, I think that Reform have got a lot of credibility. I think that they have got some fantastic ideas. But what scares me about Richard Tice, and I have been open and said this, is that if we went through the same thing again, or something similar in a bit of a different way, I don't trust his judgment, or potentially who's at the back of him.
Right.
So that's my concern. I just wish he'd stand down, if I'm honest.
But Rebecca, that's the risk with all politicians.
But we've seen a lot of politicians' true colours now. That's the difference, isn't it?
But I mean, Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We're going to stop the wars. Gets the Nobel Peace Prize and then goes and destroys several countries. Right. But he stood on the platform of yes, we can, of peace and everything, and negotiating an end to the Iraq war. Right. And and I'm just using it as I think as a very famous example, but that's that's the risk that we all take within this system. Now, I want to go back to something else that you said and that I said earlier, right? Which is that I think what brings us together, and maybe left and right doesn't apply anymore because it is for liberty. Are you for liberty or are you for state control? Right?
Yeah.
Which is how come you and I end up talking. Okay, so what does UKIP stand for?
Yeah, exactly. So what does UKIP stand for? It's a very good point, actually. We are, immigration is probably, immigration or anti-woke are the two things that we are the most passionate about, I would say. And I kind of think immigration's taken over a little bit at the minute. But the whole anti-woke agenda and letting people have their free mind and their free speech is absolutely passionately something that is always part of us. We are that party that are the people that are not scared to say the difficult stuff because we've done that forever. And that's me. That is me as a person as well. And it's the reason why I'm in the position. Immigration, I genuinely believe we've got a really serious, huge problem with immigration. And I think that there is no party out there who have a really tough stance on it and actually have proper, good, thought out plans of how they're going to do it. I can't cope today. This morning, when I heard it was £169,000 per person to send somebody to Rwanda, I spent about 2 hours losing my mind because it's the biggest, utter load of nonsense I think that I've ever heard. And people think that it's the saviour for immigration in this country. It's not. It's an absolute waste of all of our time. When I saw the homes that we were purchasing for people in Rwanda, I said, these are not going to be cheap. And that £169,000, that's 12 years in a hotel for somebody trying to claim, obviously through an immigration claim. But it's also 2 years of an all-inclusive round-the-world cruise. You are not telling me that there is Rishi Sunak is supposed to be this amazing businessman, that's the best plan, that's the most cost-effective plan you can come up with. What a lot of nonsense. So immigration, anti-woke agenda are probably the two biggest things about UKIP, if I'm honest. And then obviously, kibosing ULEZ and the kibosing net zero as well. They're very high up there on what we do too.
Okay, well, let's deal with the immigration, right? So what?
Sure.
Now, I wasn't born here. Just
Okay.
to be really clear, right? And my dark hue may give it away as well, right?
You look beautiful.
Thank you. But so I'm an immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
So what's wrong with immigration?
I'm going to say this. It's not about race. And that's why there's a few reasons why UKIP gets the racist card. And I'm absolutely fine to address it because it was actually one of the reasons why I was sceptical about taking the position because it's not me. But our anti-immigration policies, it's not about race. It's just literally about space. You're only as big as the boat that you are in. And the United Kingdom is one of the smallest that there could be for the absolute mass population that we have. All of our services, especially face-to-face services in this country, are absolutely shot to bits. So there is good immigration, but unfortunately our government hasn't got a handle on it. And what we need to do is we really need to rein it back in and do it properly. And obviously there is a whole manifesto, policies, you name it. We are the only party on this side of politics, whatever side you want to call that, who really do have. We're very transparent. And like I said, there's one thing about me is I'll always be transparent. I'll always answer honestly. Like we put our policies up, we put our manifesto out there because please see what we're about. If you don't like it, that's cool. Find something that fits with you. Yeah. But I will say it.
So what would you do? How would you address this? And we'll come to the other issues as well, right?
Yeah. So there's quite a number. So we've actually just updated our immigration policy. It was already pretty tough before, but it's got even tougher. So we wouldn't let people get to shore. There would be a hard border in the sea now. There would be border guards as well. We would convert shipping containers into very humane conditions. This is not about treating people badly. It is about treating them with respect and dignity, but also analysing and addressing the serious paperwork problems and administration problems that we have. The plan that we actually have on the website does manage to deal with things within 3 days of them getting into these facilities. And unfortunately, treating it as tough as prison, we need to be a proper deterrent to the UK. And I don't think that we are right. In fact, we're not even in the slightest a deterrent right now. We are seen as the place that is going to be the saviour of all, I believe.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that we can't cope. We have to have a complete and utter block for the next 5 years. And then we need to do immigration properly.
Okay. I want to say my piece.
Go for it.
Right. So, as my understanding is, there are many, I don't know how many hundreds or how many thousands of people coming over illegally into the country.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them, I understand, are men of military age, single men of military age.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them are from countries that aren't at war, like Albania.
Yeah.
I recently did an interview with Aisling O'Loughlin, who's an Irish former TV presenter.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking about how in Ireland it's the same deal. Many people coming over from Georgia. Georgia's not at war.
Yeah.
Right. And then I noticed what these fake Tories are doing. And my political awakening was at the time of Margaret Thatcher.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm like, Thatcher will be turning in her grave. This is not the Tory party. It's not the Tory party. So then what party is it? Who's being served by this? And we'll come to that, right? And then I did this thought exercise. Well, how would I feel? Because I'm from Pakistan. How would I feel if there was a situation where, I don't know, like thousands and thousands, Pakistan's got a much larger population, of people from India or from Europe or from Africa or even from Afghanistan next door, thousands and thousands of them were coming into the country every single day. Well, it would put a strain on resources. Mm. It would create conflict between the host community and the newcomers. It would also destroy culture. I know about what was proposed at Linton on Ouse. And just so people don't know, this was during Johnson's time. And I saw something on Twitter about a meeting in the local church, Linton and Ouse, 700 people living, a little village in the English countryside. And the government was going to deposit 1,500 single Muslim men in that village. Yeah. I was appalled. I'd have been at that church meeting shoulder to shoulder with UKIP and who knows what, because it doesn't serve those arrivals and it doesn't serve the local community at all. Puts a strain on resources, creates conflict. No, if you're going to let them in, spread them around Birmingham, Glasgow, London or whatever, not in a little village like that. But there is something like that going on. And I think people ignore or don't necessarily see the background agenda because there are all these policies being enforced. And what they do is they set us against each other.
I know.
It is divide and rule. So then you have people who are, I suppose, traditional left or whatever, who are then competing for, just people competing for resources, competing for scarcity, that you and I, we see these arrivals come in, get hotel accommodation, and there's homeless Britons not being taken care of. Right? Yeah. There's that, yeah. And I can lead on to how the woke agenda and the climate change agenda also are divide and rule. If there's unless you want to come back on what and by the way, two of my political heroes, doubt if they're your political heroes, George Galloway and Tony Benn, were both. Okay. They both said immigration has to be managed and controlled. You can't have a free for all because it destroys local culture and it undermines the working class. It serves capital class because they get cheaper labor. But it doesn't do anything for the working class, of which I'm not one, by the way. I'm a middle class twit, just to be clear.
Love that. Yeah, and you know what? There is a lot for people who are genuinely trying to come here because they are fleeing true hardship. My heart absolutely does go out to them, but I do think that they will be better served elsewhere. We are not the country for it. Not now. Maybe in a million years in the future or whatever. Right now, we can't help our own people. Like our kids are struggling to get into schools. Our kids are struggling to we are all struggling to get face-to-face GP appointments. The NHS is an absolute shambles. Police stations are getting shut left, right, and centre. We have to sort out our own lives and our own people and the people that are here already before we can start helping others. We need to work with other countries, and the Rwanda plan is just not it. And giving £500 million to France is also a ludicrous, ridiculous. Can you even remotely get your head around the fact, somebody's in business, you've signed a contract with them, you've given them millions of pounds to do this contract, and then they don't fulfill their end of the bargain. Not only that, they absolutely appallingly do a dreadful job. And then you turn around and go, it's all right, don't worry about it. Do you know what we'll do? We'll just increase 10 times the amount of money that we've given you. And then we'll see what happens. You just won't do it. Like, it's ridiculous. Nobody's actually saying we've lost control. And actually, I did a video when Suella came out with her one of her latest immigration speeches. And we chopped it up alongside one that Boris had done about the Rwanda plan. They literally used the same speech a year apart, literally word for word. It's absolutely embarrassing, the nonsense and lies that these people are trying to feed the public. And if you think that Labour are going to be the solution, absolutely not. That's going to get 1,000 times worse.
No,
so we have to have parties like, it's just my belief, I genuinely believe that UKIP are potentially the only party that actually could solve the immigration crisis. And then obviously there's all the other things as well. But we are not scared to say this tough stuff, and there's certainly nobody behind me paying me lots of cash to do somebody else's agenda, and that will never happen either.
I have interviewed David Curtin from the Heritage Party, and I know that they have a very strong anti-immigration. And I said to him, well, you know, aren't you racist? The peculiar thing for me to say to David Curtin, who's mixed race African.
I know.
All right. And what he said is, no, we're not ethno-nationalist. Like, they're not, it's not like, oh, this particular race can't come in, or this particular culture.
Yeah, no.
So what's UKIP's position?
Heritage Party, well, David Curtin was in UKIP. David Curtin was a very big part of UKIP, and you know, I have reached out to him on a number of occasions. We did have some provisional word back that he would talk to us about working with us, and we still live in a bit of hope. I still want to work with David, but there's some historical issues. We both do sing from a very same hymn sheet, but the Heritage Party, with all due respect, is not UKIP. You know, we have a whole structure and a whole team and a management system and a board and a whole lot of people who do incredible jobs at UKIP. Heritage Party don't have that. And essentially the Heritage Party only exists because of turbulence and problems within UKIP. So it's better, you know, David's obviously very hugely, you know, all about Christianity and about love and about support and all the rest of it. And it's like, well, if we are truly that, then why can we not try and mend the fences of old? Seriously, like, your issue's not with me. I understand that your issues are with somebody else, and that's fine, because there is some stuff that, you know, we're not proud of in the UKIP history. Absolutely, there is, and it's okay to say that. You know, when people get things wrong, the most important thing is owning it, and then how are we going to do it differently? So I've said to it, I've emailed David and said, look, I want a conversation. I want to know what's happened from your perspective, and I want to fix it. What more can we do than that? We do need to work together, but Heritage are a fraction of UKIP.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, UKIP are a lot more established. I'll give you that, right? And then what Nigel Farage did with UKIP at the head of it was quite extraordinary. Now, I don't know the ins and outs, but when he left, there was turbulence and there was changes. One of the things that Nigel Farage has said is that when he was leader, UKIP didn't allow people to join who'd been members of the BNP.
Yeah.
Organizations, right? Now, I looked at the website. You won't let somebody join if they've been a member of Just Stop Oil, but there's no restriction on former members of the BNP. So how come there
was until very recently, you know. There was. Actually, it was only up until, I think it was about 3 months ago that it changed, maybe 2, because I actually brought it up. And again, this is because we were passionately trying to get rid of this racist tag. So it was a case of, if you've been part of any of those parties, we don't want anything to do with you. And I actually said to our management and our board, I said, we keep saying that we are anti-woke and we support everyone and free mind and free speech and all the rest of it, but yet on our website it says we can't have this, 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 this and this. And for me, that feels a little bit hypocritical. I don't like a lot of those parties, I'm not going to lie. I've voiced some concern about some people. But if we want to be truly embracive, you know, if somebody comes out and they are an out-and-out racist, get rid of them. But to tar everybody with the exact same brush, I'm not quite on board with that. So it is still up in the air. But if there's one thing for me, it's that racism won't be tolerated, because that diminishes what we're actually trying to do and the seriousness of what we're actually trying to do and what we're trying to say. But equally, I'm not hypocritical and I'm very transparent, and I think it's a bit harsh to be saying nobody from any of these organisations can join us. So
Right.
it is under review. It's on a personal basis now. I know that we've had some people who have, because also it's like people change. People realise their mistakes. They realise where they've gone wrong. They own it, and then they move forward. And so there has been some people who've had some histories that would not be histories to be proud of, who are now part of UKIP, and they are part of other organisations, because we've had those conversations and said, do you still believe this, and do you still believe that, and how have you been since then, and what have you done about it? So we do it on a very individual basis now. We don't just do a blanket, off you all go, if you've ever been part of any of them. And I think that's the best way to be. Let's judge every human on their own individual merit.
Fair enough. No, I can get it, because I have been guilty in the past of voting for the Green Party. Forgive me.
Christ.
We have solar panels. I drive a second-hand Prius, and my preferred form of commute is my 19-year-old bicycle, which I don't apologise for at all. Right.
Yeah.
So I do get it.
Good for you. That's fine. Like, it's your beliefs. Everybody's an individual. We have to stop judging people for their lives and what they want to do. Yeah, I can have my opinion. I can say whatever I want, and so can you. We don't have to agree on everything, and that's okay. Sure. We just have to do what is best for the majority of people and what we truly and passionately believe.
Yes, and I would add, and honour each other and respect each other in the process. Because I started off as a Remainer. And then I listened to this conversation between George Galloway and Nigel Farage, and I thought, oh, there's going to be fireworks. And it was such a decent conversation.
Yeah.
Decent. And then it was on Sputnik. I don't know if you've seen it. It was just a fabulous conversation. And that was the beginning of me becoming a Brexit. But here we are. Was it 7 years later or something? And Brexit clearly has failed. Shouldn't we be back in the loving, warm embrace of the European Union, being led by people whom we can't remove, who make decisions behind closed doors that we can't hold to account?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm finding it hard to push this argument, Rebecca.
It's interesting, actually, really, because I'm qualified in law, and I did EU law in the year that we left the EU, in the year that we voted. And I got a first class result in EU law, and then we left. And I was like, well, that's a load of shit, wasn't it? What a waste of money that was this year. So I was actually quite on the fence when it came down to staying or going. And so again, we all learn from mistakes. We learn from how things unfold, and there's always hindsight as well. But I absolutely, wholeheartedly believe that we are one of the greatest, if not the greatest country in the world, and we are perfectly capable of making our own decisions and what is best for our own people. And I don't need anybody who's sat in a completely different country telling us what to do. We are more than capable. The European Convention of Human Rights there's a lot of good in it, but we could do better. Like, we don't need that, and we don't need them, and we don't need to give them shitloads of our cash either. We are Great Britain for a reason. So no, we don't need to go back there. What we need to do is we need to take more opportunity from Brexit. And actually, Brexit has been completely and utterly butchered. And again, it's all about that control thing. They didn't want Brexit to succeed. And now it is like the lonely little bloody sheep to blame for everything. You look at the sky and it's blue. It's like, oh, well, that's Brexit's fault. But there's no sense in any of it. No, Brexit is just the token blame victim now. So we have to make our own opportunity. We have to embrace it. We have to do what's better. And we have to face up to the fact that it's been absolutely stuffed up by a party that never wanted it in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. And then there's no recognition of the damage done by lockdown, the economic, these statist policies that have deliberately out to destroy small businesses, which is the engine for economic growth, the printing of vast amounts of money for nothing, the printing of money to go and buy weaponry to kill people in Ukraine, right? But by the way, you just don't know, I'm a Muslim that goes to Quaker meetings, just so you're really clear right, about my political pedigree, right? I've been going for 10 years, right? Yeah. The only Muslim I've ever met in a Quaker meeting.
But the problem is, when you really start to think, it really and utterly soul destroying. If you really think about everything that's happened, and that's why I just had to get on and do something, because it really damages just the thought process of how absolutely we are still being controlled.
Yep.
And as long as those two mainstream parties are in power, we always will be. It has to stop. And unless we all do something, I don't even want to think about the future for our children.
Well, I'm actually really optimistic about the future because I can see what's happening in the macroeconomic climate that doesn't make the mainstream news. And one of the reasons why people say, "Oh, Europe's done so well, done so well, done so well." Europe had negative interest rates and zero, or NERP and ZERP from 2014 to 2022. That's how bad its economic shape is. Excuse my English, right? But that it was in such bad economic shape, they can't afford to pay any interest on their loans. And now with the Federal Reserve raising interest rates in order to support the dollar, because they don't want a central bank digital currency, Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan aren't going to have their business model taken away from them. Those gangsters aren't going to be robbed by those other gangsters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so capital is going to drain from the European Union, robbing, and we haven't mentioned it yet, WEF and Davos of their source of funding. Because they're not going to be able to just borrow money at 0% interest and then spend it on all kinds of crazy boondoggles like wind turbines and solar farms and stuff. Okay. But they are going to carry on dividing and ruling us, to divide us, to rule us, which brings us to the woke agenda. So let me get this straight. Let me check this out. Am I right in assuming you would object to me putting on a woman's dress and going into a woman's toilet?
Yes.
Good. Thank bloody good. You would. So what's...
Yeah, it's. I feel like it's a really disturbing future. And again, another column I wrote, I put it on Twitter the other day actually, because I was like, I told you all this a year ago. But I said, if we don't do something about this now with children, we will have kids identifying as fish and flamingos and we will be forced to believe them. And now a year later, kids are identifying as cats. It's like, I told you so. Like, this has got to stop. And it's like, it's gaslighting 101. Like, that's what it is. If you want to put on a woman's dress and go into a female toilet, you then expect me to believe that you're female. You're not. So don't expect me to go along with this nonsensical game. Don't expect me to pretend the kid is a cat. It's not. This is gaslighting because you're trying to challenge my version of reality. And my version of reality is the absolute truth.
Yeah, well, there's XX. There's XX and XY, and that never changes. Every single cell is coded for that and gives expression to that completely, right? And so then you're opposed to men dressing up as men, calling themselves women, competing in women's sports?
Yeah. I'm not up for that.
And what do you think about the sexualization of children? It's a pretty silly question.
Awful, horrific, absolutely disturbing. Again, I think if I'm really honest with myself, I think that everything that drives me and my passion is a fear of what is to come for my kids. And, what I don't want them to experience and what I don't want them to live. And that, again, is just part of it. And, I've got a 10-year-old and I've got a 17-year-old. And, my little 10-year-old, she's still so innocent. And so, and I'm just trying to clutch at those last bits of innocence. And that, I don't feel is being protected enough in children. I was brought up by, I'm 38, but I was brought up by parents who were quite a bit older. And my parents are now in the mid-70s, and I was brought up very close to my grandparents, who were both, my grandma died last year, and they both were mid-90s when they died. So I am brought up by those really hard-working traditional generations that are very black and white, and it is, they will not have any of this nonsense. And they're almost demonized for their thoughts and their beliefs, whereas they're not even taught to try and understand anything at all. They're just told you're wrong. And actually, we've got so much to learn, and I'm so passionate about keeping their traditional values and instilling them in my children, and keeping that innocence in children is absolutely one of them. And it all comes from we're losing so much of so many amazing generations, and we've got to really wake up quickly and don't let it happen.
Sure.
Fear.
And what I see in you and in many, many others, more and more people waking up, more and more people waking up, more and more people joining hands across political divides. And I don't think that the sexualization of children agenda, that aspect of I don't think it'll go far because people won't put up with it. We are genetically, biologically driven to protect our children.
I know, yeah.
Right? We're not going to put up with it. And then one of the things that I think, and I discussed this with other colleagues of mine, the stuff, and I'm giving this to you. You may have already thought of this, but people watching this as well, right? And I hope people in your party and elsewhere watch this as well and learn. Where we have children being inappropriately sexualized at school, like, a 9-year-old being taught how to self-stimulate. That 9-year-old comes home and plays with the kid next door. And the kid next door is now sexualized in a way that they hadn't been before. And the 9-year-old's acting innocently because it's what he or she learns at school.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens, and it's likely, is that the parents start doubting each other. Who did that? And it's likely to be the man who's never done anything. Yeah. But now people are suspicious of him, the neighbors, his own partner.
Yeah.
So this family, this cohesive family unit that didn't have these issues at all, is now being divided.
Yeah.
Easier to rule.
Yeah.
Everything that they're doing, the WEF are doing, is set to divide us, set us against each other.
I know.
Destroy unity, right?
Divide and control.
Yeah, divide and control, absolutely. That you and I are both whites, me as well, by the way, right? White supremacist, racist, Brexiteer, anti-vaxxer. We haven't talked about this, but probably Trump tards too, right? Anti-woke, homophobic, all that business.
Yeah.
Because we think...
I get all of that.
Yeah, I get white supremacists as well. I think I should get extra points for that one.
I know, yeah, you get double points for me for that one. Well done to you.
That's right.
And I'm just like, piss off. Like, it's not about any of that. Like, at what point does everybody wake up? And I genuinely don't think that everybody will. But we just need enough people to get there.
Yeah, enough will. Okay. All right. Then what's wrong with taking care of our planet? What's wrong with reducing carbon dioxide emissions? What's wrong with people? I told you at the beginning, I joined the anti-apartheid movement when I was 18, right? So I used to go on demonstrations outside the South African embassy, and I used to go on anti-war demos and stuff, right? And you say you're anti-woke, therefore you must be pro-political protest, peaceful political protest. So what's wrong with people being possibly paid to wear orange bibs and prevent other people from earning a living? What's wrong with that as part of their legitimate political protest?
Jesus Christ. It's just lies, in my opinion. Listen, if there's one thing that I don't really speak much about, it's this side of stuff, because I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. But what I have seen and what I have been told, and the presentations I've sat through with absolutely fantastic people who are absolutely the most intelligent people I've ever met, is that the climate emergency is not real. It's like, the whole COVID situation. How many people made money out of COVID? Do we even have to talk about Michelle Mone, for crying out loud? It's being used as another agenda for their pals to make money off, to come up with these crazy grand plans that cost billions.
But hold on. The climate is changing. And if we don't change the climate, if we don't stop the change, we're going to die. There's a consensus of scientists.
Yeah. That consensus of scientists that said, 50 years ago, we were going to be dead 20 years ago, who then said that we were going to be dead. I've lost count of the amount of times I've been told that we're all going to be dead in my lifetime, and I'm still here. This might be the end of it. In the next 10 minutes, we might all be gone. Who knows? But if I keep living like that, I'm not going outside my door. Right? So this is nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. When you look back, it's all that fear mongering. Again, I put something up on Twitter the other day of there was two maps, like one from, I think it was 2007, and then one from now, which was like, we were bloody hotter back then than last week, but now it's being fed to us as like, oh my God, it's the biggest heat wave in the whole entire world, and we're never going to cope, and we're never going to come out of it. And all of the bloody colours on the map had changed, and now they're bright reds, and it's like, piss off, leave me alone, let me live my life, for goodness sake. Go and have a nice lolly and sit down. Which I know that there's a huge wave of people, and I think that actually this is probably the biggest this is probably the biggest movement that we are up against, I feel, is the climate one. Because there feels to be so many more people still on the side of it is absolutely real, and we're all going to be dead in 10 years' time, and we all need to turn vegan and lie down in a road. It feels like, don't. But it feels like there's a huge movement of those people, and that's the one that is turning the slowest around.
I'd like to offer you something. As a fellow climate denier who denies I'm going to be a little bit silly again. Who denies there's any such thing as climate, which we don't, right? But that's the climate denier. You break it down, right? No, there is a climate. By the way, I remember being young in 1976. There wasn't all this nonsense, and it was bloody hot. And then last year I was in Pakistan in June. Yeah, proper winter. Last year I was in Pakistan in June, cycling about slowly at 47 degrees C. People were still alive. It was amazing.
Mental, innit? How on earth do we cope?
So one is... So one, I'm not a scientist either, but I'm going to offer you something, right?
Okay.
So one is, for me, I consider this as European imperialism for the 21st century. The continent that doesn't have hydrocarbons in any amount is going to tell the rest of the world that they got to do without. And the continent that historically, in modern history, has been telling the rest of the world what's good for them is now going to update it. This is what's good for you. No hydrocarbons for you in Sudan. It's for your own good. No hydrocarbons for you in Nigeria. Well, try it with Nigeria or in Pakistan or, all these other places, because we know, because us European imperialists, we know what's good for you. So it's just like Christianity was the civilizing mission of the European imperialists. Now we've got climate change. So there's that.
Yeah.
Then also, do you know how much carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere?
Yeah, I've heard this various times, but I try and get it out of my memory because I'm...
Okay. Guess. What do you reckon? All right.
Go on.
0.04%.
Yeah, I was going to say 0.
Tiny amount. So there's that, right? Yeah. And then the argument goes, and by the way, I've reached out to Just Stop Oil and a few of the other similar organizations, so I'll talk to them. They won't talk to me. They haven't replied saying yes, they'll come on, right? But the argument goes, we release carbon dioxide, and that warms up the atmosphere, and that causes climate change. Yep. Now, a warmer atmosphere holds more water vapor. You get more humidity in the summer than you do in the winter. There's more humidity in a warm country than in a cold country. You get more evaporation because of the temperature rising, and you get more water vapor. So you've now got carbon dioxide plus warmth plus water vapor. What happens in the presence of daylight?
Carry up.
Photosynthesis. You telling me, I mean, you're not telling me, right? Photosynthesis is bad for the planet. Are you kidding? The foundation of the entire food chain is bad for the planet?
It's all just absolute nonsense. It's so much nonsense. I can't dedicate space in my brain.
Growing. We have to deal with it. It's growing. We have to deal with it. And then with regards to the consensus, the consensus of all the scientists that haven't been censored or deplatformed, like what happened with COVID. And I remember in 1980 reading Dr. Spock's baby manual, and the consensus still then was that formula milk was as good as breast milk. I don't care about consensus. Darwin challenged consensus. Galileo challenged consensus. Einstein and Newton, they challenged consensus. So I don't buy that. I want to look and see. You explain to me how plant food, like carbon dioxide, is bad for the planet.
I know.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you.
It's all about money, control, and power.
That's right. So that we can. Now, you must support low traffic networks and ultra low emission zones.
Stop it. Stop it. Oh, no. Here we go.
What about central digital currencies and biometric IDs?
Oh, no. It's honestly, it's absolute crazy. When you go through every single thing, it's like, if you weren't a very sane person, you'd absolutely lose your mind, because you'd just be convinced that it's so much doom and gloom, and like, what is the future? It's so panic and anxiety inducing if you buy into just 1% of it. So I just don't buy into any of it. Sadiq Khan, he really winds me up with his US crap. Like, I'm not being funny, but his like London Underground, isn't it like 10 times more particles than what is safe on his London Underground? But then in Greater London, it's actually at safe levels. It's lower than safe levels, and he's then still trying to penalise them too. Why? Tell you why. Because he's just trying to penalise hardworking people that genuinely just can't afford it.
Well,
it just has to stop.
Yes, and I think it's the front, it's the pretense that it's about pollution and a cleaner city, when actually the real agenda is bringing.
Sort your own shit out. If you think the pollution's a problem, sort your own problem out so that you can before you come for everybody else.
I mean, he shouldn't be driving that great big SUV that he drives, the gas guzzling SUV that he drives.
Oh, I know. Honestly, I cannot deal with them.
But Rebecca, that's the other thing that it shows up, right? The hypocrisy. So they have these parties, and their servants wear masks, and they don't. They get to fly around in private jets, and we're going to be confined to 15-minute cities. 15
I know.
Zones.
And you know what, though? When I pointed it out about his ridiculous car and how much his car costs and all the rest of it, I've still got them people coming back at me going, oh, yeah, but he has to have it for his safety. I'm like, I'm sure you can find a bulletproof Tesla somewhere if he's so concerned. But they buy into everything. They've been fed so many excuses and so many reasons behind it. They do, in the nicest possible way, and with all due respect to them, because it's not their fault. The general public, it's not their fault. They've been conditioned by a bigger power, let's say that.
Yeah.
But we do say that when somebody is seriously mentally unwell, completely mentally unwell, they don't even see it. And it feels like that's what we're dealing with when we come to sort of climate conspiracies and all the rest of it. It feels like they're so mentally far into it that they don't even see it. And it's like, how on earth do we even start chipping away at that? Well, we do just by carrying on and hoping for the best, really. But I do think that there is a level of mental unwellness in a lot of this situation too.
Okay.
Fair ranty, aren't I?
No, that's good. So what we've covered, right, is July 20th is the by-election.
Yeah.
You're going to be canvassing and campaigning like crazy. Your main platforms, the three things you said, and there are other issues, right? And I'll link to the website and people can go and check out the manifesto.
Yeah.
Opposing wide-scale immigration, the level of immigration you've got right now. And then you're opposed to the woke agenda. You're opposed to this climate change agenda as currently being espoused, because what's not being addressed is pollution or habitat destruction or poverty. They're not being addressed by the climate. And one thing, how come Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion aren't campaigning against the war? Because what about the environmental damage of war, of sending depleted uranium?
Yeah, so why do they not even see it?
That's right. And building armaments and flying them across the sky, and dropping them on people's heads. What about the environmental damage of that? Stay quiet on that. Okay. Anything else you want to say about UKIP and any other policies before we finish up?
The only thing that I'm really passionate about bringing, and it's a personal passion that I'm really trying to push, is NHS reform. And especially with GP appointments and face-to-face surgeries and things like that. That's really something that I'm hugely passionate about. Dementia care as well, just because, like I said, I spent 10 years caring for my grandmother who had dementia and Alzheimer's. And the amount of flaws, and the contracts obviously that I've delivered, the amount of flaws that I see within the NHS and how they work it has to stop. They work like they're still in the 1970s and they are dinosaurs, and it's also archaic. Whereas if they really need to get into the modern world, and I don't understand why we have GP surgeries that are still doing this whole, at best 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. at night, and it's only Monday to Friday. It's like, we're in the real world. Why are we not working until 9, 10 o'clock at night? Because I know as a single parent, I'd actually prefer that. Because when when my mum comes home from work, she would be able to look after my children, and I could then go and earn money, and I'd earn, I wouldn't have to pay out so many nursery bills. Then there'd be more appointments for people to see doctors, because, I'm going through quite a situation with my dad at the minute, and we went through it last year as well when he had a heart aneurysm. I had a consultant's appointment today for my dad. The guy is telling my dad that he needs to have his gallbladder out when my dad is as frail and as thin as they come, and he hasn't even seen him. He's struggling. He doesn't even understand what I'm saying to him half of the time. It's like, you need to see him. You can't have a conversation about this that is potentially, he even said to me, the surgery has a risk of death for him. And you want to try and instruct it over a phone, or you want to try and restrict it over a phone. You need to start getting into the real world, getting back to proper work. And we do that by changing up the way that we work and working in more of a privatised manner. We have to, but we also have to completely and utterly protect the NHS system and the healthcare system that we've got for people. Obviously, that is completely the free side of that. I don't want to go to a private, American model in the slightest. But I do genuinely believe we need complete reform, and that's a swear word in my book. We do need a complete reform of the NHS and GP surgeries, because I just see people dying, if I'm honest, and I'm hugely passionate about that. That's one of the things that I'm massively pushing, and UKIP are very much supporting me on, because they do agree.
Very good, very good. Okay, Rebecca, thank you. There's so much more we could have covered. I appreciate you taking the time out. Any other last words?
No, I'm all good. I think the only thing that I would probably cover, I am getting it quite a bit, is that, why on earth is somebody from Lancashire standing in Uxbridge and South Ruislip? What people don't actually know about me. So my company has been delivering national private mental health care for 5 years now. So I've worked, and obviously my work as deputy of UKIP, like I work in London all the time. Obviously my parents are still here. I'm not up for uprooting them, and one of my daughters is in school here. So I do have a base here, but I'm very passionate about the people of the area, and I do know the struggles that they face. And it's not even about, I don't expect to win. Let's say that. I'm not going to come out and go, yes, you know what, I'm going to win, because you know why? I'm not deluded, unlike a lot of my competitive friends. But what's really important to me is that we take as many votes off the Conservative Party as possible, and we take as many votes off the Labour Party as possible as well, because Conservatives cannot get back into power, for goodness sakes. They're on a PR mission at the minute, as we all know. They're trying to get people to forget all the shit that they've done over the last few years. So they're on a PR mission. We have to make sure that they lose, but we also have to make sure that Labour don't get in huge power, because it's going to get even worse. And
I would say the same deal for the Lib Dems and Green Party. We don't want them either. I see all four of them as WEF acolytes, owned and captured by the World Economic Forum. And the reason why Tories won't get in, I think the Tory party is dangerous for the WEF, because it has this rump of libertarian MPs that are anti-lockdown, anti-woke. So one way of destroying them is by having the Tory party institute such awful policies that impoverish people, that aren't traditional Conservative policies. Such that then Keir Starmer's Labour, and Keir Starmer is hopeless, absolutely hopeless. No charisma, nothing, no charm. At least Tony Blair could give a speech, right? And he did capture people for a while. But Starmer has nothing going for him. And they're going to be even more WEF than the Tory party.
I know. And how concerning is it? The only viable alternative is for all splinter stroke centre right parties to come together. But they need a wake-up call too. Because they know exactly what they've done with this situation. And if we don't learn this lesson now with these by-elections, we've got no hope for the general election.
Okay. Well, I think the tide's turning. We have the AfD in Germany winning an election, right? Yes. They're anti-WEF, I think, party. We have RFK and Cornel West in the US. Yeah. Right, running on peace tickets, anti-war tickets. Yeah. And pro-freedom tickets. So, yes, there is hope. Yes. No, the it ain't gonna fly. They're gonna do a lot of mess before it crashes and burns, but they're not gonna win.
Keep fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed and just keep doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Rebecca, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll have all the links in the description below, and anybody who want to go and check this out, please do so. Please share this video, spread it far and wide. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with freedom. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Rebecca signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.